This is Math 2, Unit 3, Lesson 1, Notes. 3.1, we're going to title this Congruent Figures. Okay, what I'm going to write down is a definition. Figures, I'm going to change to pencil, are congruent. Okay, now I'm going to give the definition. So congruent figures. Figures are congruent when they have the same number of sides and all corresponding sides and angles. That's the shorthand for angles. Whenever I write that from now on, you'll know what that means. Figures are congruent when they have the same number of sides and all corresponding sides and angles are congruent. That's the symbol for congruent. Okay, with that definition, can you conclude the figures are congruent? Justify. You just have to explain. Okay, number one, we're going to draw two images. First triangle is going to look like this, and I'm going to title this JKL. My second one is going to look like this, and we're going to title this one MNO. Alright, there are some markings I'm going to give you, and the markings that will be given I'm going to put in pen. Anything I write extra I will put in pencil. Okay, so given angle J is congruent to angle M, that will be given information. Angle K is congruent to angle N, that will also be given information. Side KJ is congruent to side MN, and I'm going to come back here. One angle marking and one angle marking means those two are congruent. I put two angle markings here to show that these two are congruent to each other, not to the original. If I just put one in all of them, that means all of them are congruent, and it's just these two congruent to each other and these two congruent to each other. Okay, I'm going to tell you that JL is congruent to MO, and I used two side markings because I've already used one there, and KL is congruent to ON. Again, I used three markings because I've already used 1 and 2. Alright, so in order for these two triangles to be congruent, they need to have the same number of sides, which they do, and all corresponding sides and angles are congruent. These two sides are congruent, that's good. These two sides are congruent, that's good, and these two sides are congruent. The only thing we're missing is corresponding angles are also congruent. J and M are congruent, K and N are congruent, but it doesn't say anything about L and O. I will tell you this. There's something called the third angle theorem. If you have two triangles where two of the angles are congruent, like these two are congruent to each other and these two are congruent to each other, by the third angle theorem, the third angle has to be congruent. For example, you don't have to write this piece down. I'm just going to put some numbers in there. If this is 60, then according to congruency, this one in over here has to be 60. Say angle J was 40, then angle M would have to be 40. Again, I'm just making numbers up so you can see. 60 and 60 and 40 and 40. Knowing what we know about triangles, they all have to add up to 180. 60 and 40 is 100, so this would have to be 80. 60 and 40 is 100, so this would have to be 80. Any different combinations of numbers you pick, that third one will always be congruent, third angle theorem. So we would say yes. Can you conclude the figures are congruent? Yes. All corresponding angles and sides are congruent. And I'd like you to make a triangle statement. It looks like this. Triangle. The first three letters that you pick on your first one doesn't matter. I'm going to put J, K, L. Now the second set matters. I went from J to K to L, from one marking to two angle markings to three. 1, 2, 3. So I have to go in that same order. 1, 2, 3. So that would be O. Okay, let's try another one. Number 2. Okay, I'm going to call this first one ABC. This next one X, Y, Z. And I'm going to give to you, I already gave you those two angle markings are congruent. They're both 90. I'm also going to give you that angle A is congruent to angle X. Okay, those are the markings I'm giving to you. Now, according to third angle theorem, like we did over here, if these two angles are congruent, we can tell that from the markings. These two angles are the same. We can tell that because they're both 90. Then B and Z must be congruent. That's the third angle theorem. All right. But I didn't give you any markings on the sides. Like these over here in pen, those were given to you. The 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, 3. There's no markings here. Now we cannot just add them in because we want to. Like, oh, it looks like these two are congruent and YZ and BC. We can't just add them in there because we want to or because they look like it. It has to be given information, which it's not. So the answer is no. Can you conclude the figures are congruent? No. We'd have to say we don't know if the sides are congruent. That wasn't given information, and because we don't know that, we cannot conclude they are congruent. Okay, next piece. Given triangle ABC is congruent to triangle JKL, complete the congruent statement. All right, I'm going to give you the picture right here. I'm going to draw two triangles. I'm going to call this one A, B, C. And this one J, K, L. All right, what I'd like you to do, because you don't know, and they kind of look the same, it could be rotated, reflected, so let's put some markings in there. I'm going to use my pencil for things that we're marking on our own. According to this, A is congruent to J, so I'm going to mark that. A is congruent to J. The orders of the letters do matter. B is congruent to K. Oh, see, I almost marked that one, so you want to make sure you're following. And C is congruent to L. Okay, now you can also mark sides. AB is congruent to JK, and you can see that single marking is between the 1 and the 2, the 1 and the 2. BC is congruent to KL. Where's BC? BC is congruent to KL, and you can see that matches. These double side markings are between the 2 and the 3 angle markings. 2 and 3 angle markings. Now, how do I label the third side? I already did AB and BC. The third side is AC, the first and the last, which means it corresponds with the first and the last, JL, which is here. And you can see they match, single, triple. All right, let's go ahead and do the questions. Number 3, angle A is congruent to what? Number 4, angle C is congruent to blank. Number 5, side BC is congruent to blank. Number 6, side LJ is congruent to what? And number 7, angle BCA is congruent to blank. All right, what you can do is hit pause, fill them in, and then check, or do them with me. That is up to you. Okay, I can use this or the statement. I don't need the picture. A is congruent to J, but I can see it in the picture as well. So angle A is congruent to angle J. C is congruent to 3 and 3 to L. That's there. And I can see it here as well, last and last. BC, where's BC? That's the double side, is congruent to KL. Again, you can see that here, BC and KL. LJ, that's this side here, the triple marking, is congruent to the triple marking CA. And you can see that here as well. LJ is the last and the first, CA is the last and the first. Angle BCA, just getting used to using 3 letters. Let's use the 3 letters for the answer. BCA, the one in the middle is your vertex. They're referring to this angle right here. BCA is congruent to angle L using 3 letters, JLK or KLJ. It's up to you as long as the L is in the middle. Okay, next piece. Number 8, and we are almost done. Given MA TH is congruent to LOVE. So we're working with the 4-sided polygon here, 2 quadrilaterals, LOVE. MATH is congruent to LOVE. I'm hoping by the end of this year we all have a love for math, if you do not already. Part A, name 4 pairs of congruent angles. Now, you do not have to draw a picture. A picture is not given to you. It's up to you. You can draw one if you'd like. I'll do one at the end, but not yet, to show you just how quick this is. Angle M, I'm just going to go in order, is congruent to L. Now, you don't have to go in the same order. You can start with A and O or H and E. I'm just going to go down the line. Angle A is congruent to O. You can put pause and finish these on your own and then check. Angle T is congruent to angle V. And H is congruent to E. They just matched. First, second, third, fourth. First, second, third, fourth. All right, that's it for part A. Part B, name 4 pairs of congruent sides. So when we're naming a side, we need 2 letters. I'm going to flip this over really quick, like here. BC matched with KL, or you did it this way, BC and KL. So I'm just going to read down like I did with the angles. I'm going to do MA with LO. MA is congruent to LO. Next set would be the AT. AT is congruent to the second set here, OV. And then the last 2. TH is congruent to the last 2 here, VE. Now I'm running into a problem. I only have 3. They're asking for 4. Remember, we always used our last and our first, or first and last. The order doesn't matter. HM or MH is congruent. I did HM, so EL. And I will show you how that one works right now with the picture in case that did confuse any of you. All right, I'm just going to draw a quadrilateral. It doesn't matter what this quadrilateral looks like as long as they look somewhat the same. Okay, so I'm going to have M, A, T, H, and I have to go in the same order here to if it's not being reflected. Okay, M, A, T, H, L, O, V, E. And you can check angle M was congruent to L. A was congruent to O, T to V, and H to E. All right, so that means between 1 and 2, between 1 and 2 is congruent, that's MA with LO, it works. Between the 2 and the 3, that's AT. Between the 2 and the 3 is OV, that one worked. TH, 1, 2, 3 is between the triple and the quadruple. Between the 3 and the 4, that works, TH and VE. And the last one that I didn't see right away up here that we had to move around is the HM with the EL. And you can see they match. There's 4 angle markings, there's 1 angle marking. So these two sides are congruent, HM and EL. Again, this is not necessary. If you can just look and match them up, you're good. If the picture helps, then you draw the picture. That is totally up to you. That is it for this lesson.